This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll call to order the Monterey Select Board on March 17th at 5:31 p.m. All three members of the Select Board are present here in Town Hall, as well as the three members of the Finance Committee for our joint budget meeting. So I think last week we said that there would be no meetings this week, but what's that?
That's called.
Who? Oh, I talked to Tony.
You did? Okay.
But Dennis is here and we're gonna talk about the pavilion, and whether or not it's gonna be a special article or as a proposed special article. Dennis or Roger, is one of you suited to give us an update on the pavilion project? And
I know. So we have some documents to sign, which are really the preliminary forms to get the project going, between EDM Studio, EDM Engineering, and Foresight Land Service. It's documents to get the project going on the really just the foundation at this point. Unfortunately, we won't have any numbers to say how much it's actually going to cost before the town meeting, because it's just going to be 5 weeks or so before they can even have documents put together, and then it'll be another few weeks after that before they can get any bids in for longer. And so at this point, we don't really know exactly what the overall cost is going to be for the pavilion. So that's basically where it stands right
I
now.
have a question. If you were to fill out this sentence, it would not exceed, would you have a number that you could put in there?
Well, we only have the number that we have from the town meetings. So, I mean, we have we have dollars that we've set aside, but the hope was that we would have gotten this all done before, so that there was enough time to figure it out. It just didn't happen. So, yeah, that's where we are.
well, we could do a contingency article, but I don't really like that. Maybe our best approach is to put as much money as we can into the general stabilization, as much free cash as is available. And should it be an item on the November town meeting or another town meeting?
Yeah.
And we want to use stabilization,
It's there.
What was the final date for the Fed money from COVID?
I think it's 27. I mean, we had to have it
I
allocated.
think it's the end of 27.
Okay. To actually spend it. We had to have it.
We had it allocated. So we have a contract, or we have it allocated for that, as a match to the cultural facilities grant.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have a contract with them, so that makes it allocated, so to speak.
Right. So that, I wasn't worried about the allocation part, I was worried about the spend part.
You know what?
Didn't we have to put the money from the truck?
We moved money around, so we have a special article, and it might even need to be touched up from where it is. You're right, it's not ARPA money.
No, it's all been, the ARPA money was used.
So we have a special article, and it's supposed to have $92,000 in it.
It was all moved around.
Yeah.
That happened, yeah.
Okay.
So there's the 92,000, and then there was, well, I was just gonna look and see, there was money from the, I think the lights were still showing.
That
up as
was part of
it.
92.
Yeah.
So I think, does that handle the pavilion? Are there any questions, comments?
So the 92 would be the town's match. Actually, it was 91,000 that the grant was.
Right.
Mass Cultural. So that gives you 182,000. And then, as I recall the original article back, I believe, at a previous town meeting, it was 53 coming from CDBG.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So that gets you to about 216 or 20,000 thereabouts, give or take.
Yeah.
Going into the bid.
So the 216 is what again, Dennis?
That was a number that the engineers had originally proposed to the town after
Just some adjustments.
Right, so if you take the 91 from the town, 91 from Mass Cultural Council, and you add the 53, you get about 216,000, I think, if my math is close.
CDBG.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I have it calculated 237,000.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
For the $85,000 pavilion. Sorry, it just makes me nuts.
well, it's what, it's
I know.
not a pavilion, it's other work that's being done, foundation, so.
Okay, so we're not gonna know for this budget cycle, right? If there's a,
For the annual town meeting, that's right.
oh, also, the Friends, I might have
Yes.
one of their meetings and they're willing to try to help, but I wasn't able to offer an exact figure.
Well, being on that board, I can say that at least 10,000 would be offered as a partner from the Friends of Wilson McLaughlin House. And that might be a little higher, depending on their account balance. But there's a feeling that they want to strongly support as strongly as they could. If there's a difference in the bid package and the actual bid numbers.
All right, any other questions in the pavilion? Okay, I think that's all set, Dennis.
Susan,
Thank you.
Thank you.
actually, you just need one signature. As you
So the total cost of the whole project would be how much more?
Well, we have about 250,000 available, but we're waiting to find out, we have to put it out. This is to put it out to bid. And we've gotten very different construction estimates, and one of the things Dennis has spoken to before is they add in extra money because it's gonna be on a state. It's gotta be
State requirements.
state requirements.
Construction and bidding and prevailing wage rates would have to be also by the contractor. It's a design build project, basically.
So,
It's
we,
just one signature, so it's just your hand.
I'll do it.
Signature.
When we're not
Okay.
doing budget.
No worries.
I'll do it later when we're not doing budget. It's site work, engineers. But, all right, thank you, Dennis. Moving to the general budget. We can start by going down through holds, or if anyone wants to call attention to a particular subject, line item, special article, we can
I like doing the whole process.
Do that.
That
hold.
Can I
tells us
just
how much work we have to do.
suggest for the Excel line 20, assistant to principal assessor, maybe the percent change should be like NA?
Yeah.
Because that looks crazy.
Well,
Roger,
Well,
1 to 10,000, like,
$1 to $5 would be really high percent.
so we can start from the top.
moderator, constable, you want to go? Just shout them out. Office assistant wages, office assistant expenses, the select board stipend. Select board-
Okay. I'm willing to forego mine for the,
You're willing to what?
to skip being paid for the, it's about it. And I don't need that money and I'm willing to skip it. It might only be 5K, but it's 5K.
I think it's nice of you. Thing is, we'll have to come up with the $5,000 next year.
I
If we
know.
take it out this year.
I know, and I'm kicking the can down the road and, I get that. At the same time, this is a
think it's really very honorable. I'm glad you can afford to do that.
Me too.
I worry that it might impact. We talked about having younger people come on board.
It's not permanent, there's
I
no
understand.
question, it's not permanent, I know.
But we're gonna have a younger person, evidently. It's gonna affect them.
And I'm not saying we should make a policy of not doing it, I'm saying I'm willing to forego it for this year
You
when,
can make a policy
Things are so
for
high.
increasing it. Oh.
yeah, exactly, and I realized it would have to go back on at what it would have been, or whatever, for that person's benefit, so that everyone's staying the same, I get it, but like $5,100 less on the budget, $5,100 less on this budget, it'll mean a little bump up next year, but hopefully we won't have an 18% increase on the school budget next year.
And it's a personal decision, it's not a policy decision.
Well, it isn't, it's not,
Because
and we've had this come up before for people that didn't wanna take their, a stipend, and Sandusfield Select Board tried to do it a couple years ago on town meeting, put it back in. I appreciate the sentiment.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I just don't know if it's,
If it creates more problems than
it might, if we leave it in the operating budget and you don't take it, it will bill into free cash essentially. The following
I tried that, and then I got paid anyway, so like, I'm just saying. I get it, and if we don't wanna do it, if you guys feel like it'll make more complications than it's worth, then leave it in, I'm just saying, I do want to do it.
I think of all the jobs that people serve the town on, you guys put in way more hours than any other elected official in town. I mean, really, that's just a lot. I considered the job myself once.
Well, why don't we put it yellow and put a hold on it and we'll come back to it, give some people some time to think on it. Definitely appreciate. the
Yes.
offer.
Very nice gesture.
So I've got some changes to our budget.
When we get
Do
down
you
there,
wanna wait?
we're still at line 141, you got a little time. Or somewhere near there anyway,
Are we doing holds or are we doing line by line?
We're doing
I think we're doing.
holds.
Okay.
He was reading on if we're doing holds, we're skipping down to assistant to the principal assessor, that's the next hold.
Yes. That's just for 10 hours. That's the 10 hours a week, get $20 an hour. Which is what Don, talked to Amanda about. Amanda was okay with that dollar value and the hours as well, or whoever, not that it was a specific person, but to do this with, but, we also discussed that that's kind of like the minimum amount of hours really to get somebody acclimated. Don, I think is hoping that, they hope that it might have been a little bit more because he feels that the position itself will take longer than a year to learn that. And he hasn't really said that, he plans on, he's not gonna spend the next 10 years here, he says. But he
And we
wants
have to have an assessor, and
Yes.
they're not readily available.
and he wants to, make sure that the person, whoever has that job is knowledgeable enough so that when he leaves, they can kind of get through the day-to-days, so.
Alright.
Technology, I dropped it down, it's been dropped 10,000, so it's a couple $1,000 is actually in there for, paying off, internet wireless for the building essentially.
Okay.
And then the other 15, we have to pay for licensing for, some software, and for Microsoft, we have to, we're starting to transition all that, to a new, Microsoft Office, provider, actually the real Microsoft instead of the fake Microsoft that we're using right now. And, so once we get there, we'll have some better idea of the actual dollars, so.
The election workers' wages going up and up is because of the election
Yes.
cycle where you have more elections some years than others,
Yeah, I
right?
think there's
Yeah.
two, I can double check, but I think there's two or three next year.
You have the general and you have the
Yeah,
right in the note.
primary.
yeah, I can find it if you.
It says right in the note, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, two state, national, one town, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 3 total.
But I just meant, I knew that there were more, but I just wanted to make sure that the reason for the increase.
Yep. Yes. The Conservation Commission wages is kind of, because it's such a wide range of 25 to 35, we have three people that have applied for it. I have to send the third one, two of them to the Conservation Commission co-chairs. I have a third one I'd have to send. It's such a wide range of dollar values that we have, the hourly wage, 25 to 35. I just put it at the highest, just in case we get somebody with, significant experience. Can't say for certain that we have gotten someone with significant experience, but that's just where that dollar value is. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we might be able to bring it down before before we have to sign a warrant. And that again is budgeted at 400 hours a year, which works out to a little bit over 7 hours a week. So
Which, as I recall, they were saying wasn't actually enough to get the job
at this
done.
point, yeah. Yep.
It's like fired up. So Chris had something wrong. I think we're up to fire.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Coming
Slide up over
Sure,
here.
come on up. The price might be right. Somebody get my
So I spent some time trying to figure out how we can pare things back to help ease this year's budget. How this will plug into your stuff, but, still like to stick with the same theory of hiring 3 firefighter EMTs. Looked at it as, it's kind of with Seamus, we're 9 months in, he's finished his recruit stuff, so I feel, so if we hire someone without their EMT basic, most likely they won't have their career 1, 2, so we'll be sending them to that, that's a 10-week program. EMT, if we send them to a full-time one, is 6 weeks-ish. Then house training that we want to be able to do. So I compared it back to the first 9 months of the year would be a 40-hour-a-week job rather than the average of 52 that schedule that we're doing right now. And then the last 3 months, they would be put into the schedule of what we're doing now, the averaging of the 52 weeks or 52 hours per week. And then kind of a significant change-ish.
Chris, how would that change these numbers? Just so we know specifically.
So I believe the budget that was submitted would have been the 52 hours per week.
Well,
So
what's the
it's
new number
fair.
is what he's asking.
Yeah.
So instead of 81, 840, that we're looking at, right? I'm looking at the right line.
Yeah, so leaving the holiday pay the same.
That's right, yeah.
So the base salary would be 60,060 per person. And then, so instead of, so part of the program, just due to the lack of people we have, all of our budgeting that we've been doing is filling in with it. So like the sick time, we budgeted for time and a half. So like right now, I'm sick, Seamus could work my shift, but it has to be overtime.
What was that number you said again?
So 60, thousand,
That's the bit, the
zero,
bottom.
0 is.
So what would the 81,840 change to?
What's the hourly rate that you got? Oh, we didn't know this.
So, for the first 9, similar to what we did with Seamus, so the 28,
Mhm.
and then, the last 3 months bump to that 30. So the probationary period.
But
I
is
don't
it, when they go to out of the probationary period, are they gonna be a firefighter 1, firefighter 2, or EMT?
When they go to that, the $30 an hour rate, they will be a firefighter, an EMT basic and the 1-2 certified through the state.
The whole shebang.
So just so I understand, that 60,060 is the total for the 9 months and the 3 months.
Correct.
I got you. Okay. So the 81 goes to 60.
60, yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where was the 80?
The 81,
Is this strictly salary line?
That's
For the-
just,
it's just,
that's not.
Yep.
Sick time replacement.
correct.
Yeah.
It's like that first, that's
this one.
All the other stuff's in the departmental conversation line.
oops, sorry. So in all three, that's the concept for all three.
For the 3 positions, yep. And then, so on Sean, so the existing 3 plus the 3 coming in, instead of doing, just as an area that we could cut, so like, we budgeted for the Kelly Day at a 1.5 replacement. So take the 1.5 out, I put it as a per diem firefighter. It's not gonna be 100% guarantee that we can find someone to fill it. So changing all the replacement time for vacation, sick time, and the Kelly days off to a rate of, we use 35 because there's a varying number there. So
This is to cover the 3 new hires, or that includes to cover the
we're changing
existing? Is that-
existing stuff.
Okay.
So would that be that row 50 on the spreadsheet?
So the Kelly hours on this here, because Kelly hours are.
That's because it's only, for the 3 new, they're not gonna have the Kelly hours until the
Yep.
final 3 months.
So it should be 144, yeah.
All right.
What line are we on?
And vacation, the 96.
Yep, so that,
Yep.
new employee, it's
Yep.
2 weeks, right?
Right. And then the sick time is, okay,
Sick time, same
Yep.
hours, just at a
Yep.
lower rate,
you're good.
Filling.
Yep.
backfilling with
Mhm.
per diem. Cool.
And the OT rate, well, the OT rate's 9.5, right?
Yeah, but we're not gonna do that. Now, technically, it's not OT, it's just rate.
Oh, because that was based on the
Yeah.
Kelly hours, really.
Correct.
So you're doing a calculation assuming you get per diem coverage.
Correct.
On that, oh, okay, I get you. So all those Kelly hours, they, sick time will be covered by per diems.
Per diem.
That's-
So, quick question, I thought we already had agreed on that. That Kelly days and vacation and sick days would be backfilled with per diems.
Attempt.
It just
That's
didn't
what
happen.
we've been trying to do. Yeah, but the weekday and the weekend stuff, so the Kelly days we've been trying to do on the weekends. If there's the 2 other per diems there working, if it doesn't get filled, at least there's 2 people there. But the Monday to Friday, there's only one of us there, so.
It just
so
hasn't
we've
been possible to find.
We've
per
been-
diems to
The
cover.
per diems on, so most of the per diems that we have not real
Hold on,
a normal job.
Yeah.
But, the Westfield firefighters and the Pittsfield firefighter, they're on a rotating basis, so if the stars align and they're off shift in Westfield, then they can take a shift. So the new kid, the last kid that we hired, he wants to do a lot, versus like, kid from Pittsfield, he kind of wants to do his one weekend thing, and that's kind of all he wants to do, so.
Just out of curiosity, well, I'm assuming, we have numbers on how many of the, assuming you tried to get per diems for all of the different shifts, what percentage were you able to actually fill with per diem?
It's fine.
It's off the top of your head, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just. I'd say most of them are going unbilled-ish. On the week year.
So what I'm getting at is, as much as I'd like to calculate it straight time to fill those, we can't afford to have a shortfall, so we'd either have to, if we couldn't find a per diem, we'd have to either leave the shift empty. If we go with assuming we can only have that, if we can't find one, then either the shift is empty or we
But
don't have the
in
money.
theory now, we'll have two,
Additional people.
we're gonna have another person on shift, so there'll be two on shift. Be a little,
But not the first 9 months.
not 100% the first line. I'm just trying to err.
I know, and I'm all for it, I just I'm trying to avoid
Yeah.
short.
So far, I think I'm the only one that has taken a vacation day, and no one's been sick, and so.
So can you just talk a little bit about what the 1430 is and that number?
Yeah, so the 1440 would be the 9 months of 40 hours per week.
That's at the 28.
That's the 28.
And the 658 is the remaining?
Would be the 3 months, but they're in the schedule of what we're doing now.
Right.
To get the 24/7.
Okay.
It doesn't change Benny.
So on the health side, we've got 2-ish people in the department per diems that would be interested in applying for the job. They're single. Seamus hasn't taken health insurance. So if we did, you have a buffer in there, right? So we did 3 at the single plans.
So health insurance is actually a broader conversation, and I appreciate the thought, and we have been emailing a little bit, but we have a lot of employees right now happening to not take it organization-wide,
Right.
but we can't
Right.
bank
What happens
on that, and so
Yeah.
it's good to know that from your thing, but it is I was hoping to get into it a little bit tonight, because we gotta make some decisions. We have an unfilled police position, we have an unfilled highway position. And as much in my time here, just anecdotally, off the top of my head, we have more people than ever not on it.
Yes.
I think usually it's been like, we have 11 plans and 9 or 10 have been on it. And so I just wanna make sure that we don't get caught under budgeting.
I get it.
But it's good to know from your point of view, we can kind of plan on 3 single plans during
Yeah.
fire. I just don't wanna go changing health numbers right now.
If we have these other paid staff, if the town approves that, it's on, what we're doing, deciding, not even we,
Right.
all they're doing. It's deciding if it's on the warrant or not. But if it's on the warrant and the town approves it, are the people that are paid staff but off today, I'm paid staff, but I'm off today, and a call comes in and you need me, am I kind of on call even though I'm on? Or am I?
There's no requirement that you have to come in. but how it works. With a limited amount of people coming on the volunteer side.
We're
that's
light,
kind of where,
we need to be able to staff. Okay.
yeah, so like, on my days off, I basically, a daytime where Amos is by himself at the station, all right, I'm gonna go. At night, if we have the 3 people there,
And you're not,
and it's a basic call, and so I enjoy
yeah.
going back to that.
And these numbers down, these numbers didn't really change at all, right? The weekend per diems, all
Yeah,
that stuff didn't change. It was really just
that.
along the time.
And that'll be a future change of, like the calls.
Mhm.
If we have a sufficient amount of people that are on staff, we won't need to be having the volunteers come in for a stub tow. Right, 3 or 2 guys can handle that, so,
I would hope it's still,
So-
yeah, we need to require that many, but
but we need to get to that
No,
point of being
yeah.
a stable system here.
I really appreciate your having, trying to come up with something, right? Like, we're all banging our heads against this one.
And then, yeah,
Roger, when you're done, I wanna ask a question. I know you're not. I have 2 issues I wanna bring up. One is how you got to the base pay, the EMT. Based on documents that I got from Otis, their EMT is at $26 per hour, and the Marlboro is $26.63 per hour. And I know someone mentioned last week, well, Agrimont's at 30.
Sorry, what was the number?
The Marlboro was $24.63.
Okay.
And this was emails that came to me in August. So, sometimes I feel like we're always offering at the high to get people. And if these other places are able to maintain that cost or maintain the staff, why do we have to make it $30? I mean, it's a cost. I mean, I feel like we're bidding against the other towns now.
yeah, so New Marlboro's been historically low, and they had an extremely difficult time filling their position. They lucked out and got the kid to do, it's a 40-hour job. And then it took, I think it's just till recently and not too long ago, so last budget, they approved a weekend daytime position. They were unable to fill that until a couple weeks ago, like month-ish. Otis, that's been private EMS and only EMS. Now they're cross-staffing to firefighters, so I would assume that's gonna be changing. The $30 an hour is below Great Barrington's pay rates. It's in line with Egermont's, it's in line with Stockbridge. It's in line-ish with Lee. He has a lot of different step stuff, so it's hard to get. But the 30 is in line with, what you're gonna find is the New Marlboro, they're gonna be coming up. So, and I think, even Sanesfield's paying $30 an hour for their help.
They didn't give me specifics. They said depending on the level, it's 25 to 30. You may have some paramedics or a paramedic sometimes.
Can't act as paramedics. Doesn't really.
The other, the elephant in the room, and I'll ask the question is, what happens if we don't do, we postpone the FTEs till next year?
We continue being understaffed. That's why we're trying to get to a stable system, and even at what we have is gonna be understaffed, so.
Where are you on recruiting? How many volunteers do you have now? I know that we signed off on them in the select board meetings, as you get them. How many do you?
Per diem, I don't have the exact numbers. I think 14, I think, something, but
Are you still actively recruiting?
we are not, we're seeing how this, because, so we're trying with the per diem stuff. There's 2 spots, a Saturday, 2 spots on Sunday. We don't want to overload with per diem stuff. We're trying to get everyone to 1 shift a month. So they stay involved and active. So if we have 50 per diems, you're never gonna see with only certain spots.
Chris, if these per diem guys stay home and don't have to sleep at the firehouse, how long does it take them to get there?
That's a different, per diem is a paid to be at the station. Volunteer is,
They're not volunteers, they're being paid, it's $50, $100 to walk
Right,
through,
that's-
it's a
that's
2-hour minimum. So forget volunteers, we're paying these guys. So what I wanna know is how much are they getting paid and how long does it take them to get to the station from home? When they get out of bed, when they're called out of bed?
all depends on where you live.
Well, okay, tell me how long it takes the guys to get to the station. How long does it take Del Martin to get to the station?
A few minutes versus his father wants to take the drive from their house down there. 5, 4 minutes.
Okay, 4 to 5 minutes. That is something that is unacceptable.
Well, you have to get out of bed.
No, well, you got a certain amount of stuff you gotta do up there to get ready to go. So what I'm saying, if you're going to demand that people sleep at that station, then I wouldn't do it. I can be at that fire station in 5 minutes. So you have all of this, you want to be a paid professional department and you want to, and I don't know whether you don't want to recruit, or you don't feel you can, or you want too much from these folks. But I don't see it as being sustainable.
First of all, we're not
Unless we have endless
demanding,
amounts of money in town.
we're not demanding people sleep there.
Well,
Justin is still a volunteer.
there were folks that I heard that decided that didn't want to stay in the department because they were told that they really needed to dedicate some time to sleeping there.
We encourage it because it's in your best interest if you have
Okay.
an emergency situation.
Is it a 4 to 5 minute call out of bed to get to the station with some of these guys?
The problem is there's less and less volunteers.
Well, I
Now,
know there's less, if you're gonna put demands on them, Chris, was what I'm saying.
it's right across it's not us demanding them
It's
to
not,
be at the fire station.
it's not.
There's a level of standard of performance to properly do the job.
Okay, so if it takes them 2 minutes more to get out of bed and get there, or 3 minutes more, is that based on the time it takes you to get ready, is that an unacceptable amount of time?
It's heading there, yeah.
I think
But there's
also,
I don't
multiple,
think it's an unacceptable amount of time.
there's multiple, we have 2 fire engines or a ladder truck and an engine.
Yeah,
So most of the time, the only person that's going to drive the engine is Dell.
okay,
We did a fire alarm
Okay.
the other day, and no, the
okay,
second piece is not getting out of the station.
okay.
So that doesn't matter whether it takes the person a minute to get out of bed and drive to the station, or 20
Okay.
minutes. It's just.
Fire
not-
trucks are notoriously dangerous because they're very top heavy. They're driven by people who have very low hours in driving trucks. I think you'll admit that they're not truck drivers every day. And we know what happened to Sanesfield when they rolled their truck over. If that was like your truck that had 5 or 6 people in it, would they be better off going to a call on their own than being 2 minutes late? The truck goes because somebody's at the station, the guys get out of bed, their gear is with them, the town of Carver does it. They have, I think, 80 call from home people. They carry their gear with them, they get paid $25 an hour, they don't sleep at the station. So what I'm saying
Harbor's a little
is
different
that
situation.
What's that?
Carver's a little different situation.
They're all different. Anyway.
Well, they have almost 12 times our population.
Right.
So I would
Yeah.
think
Well, I
that,
know that,
Three
you know,
three
the
beautiful brand new fire
population.
stations, $1 million training complex. And professionalism. They have to take a test to even get the application to join the department.
What's department is it?
Carter.
Personnel.
Well, I see it.
Inland, but,
Okay, yeah.
and they're surrounded by full-time departments that really don't have a volunteer, so that they're able to draw off large populations that can't join their departments, so it's a different.
That's a different, well,
also, Roger, I'm not disagreeing with you that having volunteers involved is good and that, we wanna make it possible for people to volunteer in whatever
They're not
capacity.
volunteering, they're being paid.
But you still volunteer.
As someone who's getting paid
If you're getting
to
up
be
in
the
the morning,
select
you're
board
gonna
member,
get $50 an hour, you're.
yeah, as
you're-
someone who's being paid to be a select board member, people actually said to me, well, you're paid, and I'm like, you wanna run the numbers on that, what I'm being paid? So
But
I'm
they're
just
paying
saying,
$50 an hour, they're.
yeah, but you're getting out of bed
You
at
still-
2 in the morning to do it, right? Like, that was an incentive to get people to respond at all, so I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am just gonna put this in perspective. If the policies here were completely responsible for the problem, then one could conclude it would only be here that had a problem. But that is absolutely not the case, right? Volunteerism specifically for fire is down
Okay,
everywhere in the United States, and many places it's even worse than.
so let me bring up another point. When the fire chief came in here and I asked him, how many calls do you have between 12 midnight and 8 in the morning? He said, we have 1 a month.
That was the
That
police.
was
The police
Oh, the
chief.
police, I'm sorry.
That's a pretty big difference.
Oh, no, I just spoke. And I'm saying to myself, if you have 1 call a month for 12 and 8, can't you like get together with the Marlboro? It's the same with the fire.
It's
It's
not,
not.
it's about 2/3, 1/3.
Well, I mean, it's the same concept of sharing the responsibilities because you're staff in your town.
So if you go into cardiac arrest, what is an acceptable time period?
They have their own ambulance.
Right, exactly.
So that's
So if
not,
we share, if we go down that route, all right, tonight Marlo's gonna cover Monterey. What's your number for that ambulance to show up for you, that you're okay with?
well, Chris,
No, and
if we built a hospital in Monterey, we would have better service. If you hired a doctor to be on board with you up there,
I wouldn't
you would
agree
have
with you on
better
that
service.
because
You
you're
would
not
have
busy
better
enough to
service.
have.
So
training
how
folks.
far do we go? How far do we go?
Get a fair view.
How far do we go with this? You could come forward with a plan that says, if we have 8 minutes of call if it takes us 8 minutes to get it, this is what's gonna cost us to do it. This is what's gonna cost to do it. If we share with other towns, this is what it's gonna cost to do it. That's what I would like to see. Why don't you tell us?
Tell you what.
If we teamed with them, if we teamed with New Marlboro, if we teamed with Sandusville.
The distance, so the problem around here, yes, we do need to team with New Marlboro. We are teaming with Otis, we are working on a plan. But you still have to have a quick response in a timely manner, right? Within 8 minutes, you're starting to go brain dead, right? So, it doesn't take, what is it, 10 minutes, 9 minutes to New Marlboro? And then we're anti-staffing, right? You don't want to staff the station. So now it's gonna be 10 minutes for someone to go to the station and get the ambulance, and so.
All those surrounding towns have their own ambulances, Chris.
But we
So-
don't,
We don't.
and the whole point was to have people who had EMT skills in our house to fill that gap.
Okay, I've said enough.
So I think we're trying to understand 3 things. and I don't mean this like we versus you, we're all trying to understand three things. I'm trying to make very costly decisions, very expensive decisions.
Right.
And hopefully to keep, as I've often preached, to keep the town safe, to keep the firefighters safe, to keep the volunteers safe, and to be able to respond as quickly as possible to avoid things getting out of hand and going sideways, which I understand they can do pretty fast, in a fire, in a serious medical condition. Not that I sprained my ankle, but a more serious medical condition. And I was thinking about, what Steve said last week about capacity. So it would be really helpful, I think, if the two committees had a sense of, if there's a way of concretizing this into a number of three things. What the capacity is that we need to have going forward. We need to have these many people available. We could argue that a volunteer from Sheffield is maybe a really great volunteer, but not at 2 a.m. if they're living at home, if they're sleeping at home. But a volunteer like who lives across the street from the fire station, maybe doesn't have to sleep at the fire station, of course. But capacity is the first thing. I think the second thing is the level of response that we can reliably provide today and how that relates to capacity and the cost of capacity, because that's what we're paying for, in a sense. So level of response, if you send one of your trucks out with a driver, because there's only one of you there, and you arrive on the scene, my understanding is that there's not a whole lot that you can do on the scene as a single firefighter.
There's a whole lot to do, but
There's not a whole
You're
lot
only
you
one
can do,
person.
right, with one person. And you might need, I think the national average is 4, rural communities have less than that, it's understood, and you might have mutual aid and all that, but like you were saying, minutes count.
minutes count.
Minutes count big time. So another metric would be, what's the level of response that we can reliably provide today on the average? Not that we've done sometimes or haven't done other times, but on the average, and how that relates to our capacity and the cost of that. And the third thing is, I'm aware of the override that the town voted on last year, the 3-year override. And how does the capacity and level of response fit into a multi-year approach that the town has already supported? They may not continue to support it, but at least, so I think without those metrics, it's really hard for a non-professional, which all of us at this table are except 2, to really figure out what a reasonable number is to put on warrant. So I think it could be helpful if we had an idea, if you said, look, in order for us right now with what we've got, our capacity is, we're gonna have 2 people get there within 10 minutes, roughly, or 20 minutes, or 50, whatever the numbers are. But that's what we've got now. If we add a third person, if we add another employee, our capacity improves. Our level of response improves. We can get there faster, and really be there, not just from bell to somebody puts their feet on the property. That doesn't count. They're not able to really fight the fire or really help the person who's seriously injured or is having a heart attack or something like that, or a diabetic episode or what have you, or time is of the essence. I think that would help us be able to say, gee, we're not over capacity here, or we're not under capacity here, that we're doing the best we can to come up with a right fit between capacity and level of response. So I don't know if you can come up with those numbers, but I think that would be helpful.
Can I ask you to clarify the third one? I'm not sure I understood. You said,
Well, the
given the
third one is how
override from last
The
year.
third one's not really a number, but how it fits into a multi-year plan. Because
Okay.
I've been part of these conversations and it feels like deja vu all over again.
Oh, I hear you,
Yeah,
but I
and-
just didn't
Yeah,
understand what you meant. I just want
Yeah, so
clarification.
how it
I'm
fits-
taking notes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. How it fits in to a multi-year plan, which the town already support it in terms of the tax override, but I'm even thinking about how it fits into a dare I say, how it
Town
fits,
plan.
how it fits into a town plan. Because this is not unique, as we've said, to Monterey. It's not unique to rural communities. But given that we're both of those, how it fits into a plan of what we're gonna do long term, which may be 5 years out or even longer. So we're not just every year having the same conversation.
And I think having input from other people beside the fire company is healthy.
Mhm.
I think that anytime you have more people trying to solve a problem, good ideas come about, and
I agree.
it's healthy, and I think we need to do that.
I think if we can do that with the standpoint of, from the standpoint of actually solving a problem,
Well, that's
because what I see in my work
is
so often is people say, well, you know, I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy. No, I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy. And that's not about solving problems, as opposed to saying, we're stuck in the elevator, we gotta get out of here.
What I want to interject is, because the costs are so high, we need partnerships. But the partners that come to the table need to spend money.
Right.
I understand what you're saying about Otis, but I looked at their budget this year. I sure wish our emergency service was flat year to year like theirs was. Now, maybe that will change. But when you sit here and you go through the capital list, just under what is in the capital budget about all the building needs, some of it we're addressing, more of it is. A year ago, we spoke about the concrete floor was a 60, 80,000, less than 100, I don't remember. Sean said it's a $300,000 problem. So you start adding all this up. We have $1 million truck coming. You know, the ladder truck, I'm told, if you look at the age of it, is going to need to be replaced. We really need to find partners that want to not only say they want to be partners, but they're going to say, okay, we're in this, we know it's going to cost money, and we're going to share this cost. You know, having, saying, oh yeah, we can do a handshake deal for Otis, and we, run 80, 100 calls over there. And I've come convinced listening to people over the last week, it's time to sit down and say, regionalization, who wants to come? And we start writing a letter. We're going to work on this for a year. You can be part of our partner, and this means sharing costs, or don't call us. I don't know, I don't know what else to say, because you start adding, if you're in the private sector and you did a business plan, and you looked at all the capital you have, and you look at all the increase of labor, health benefits and all that, it's a huge number, but it can service more than one town, in my opinion. I might be wrong. We talk about the times that we have ambulance. It's, I've run the times, I'd say Southern Berkshire's 12, 14 minutes. It varies. Some are worse, some aren't, so, I'm not sure. I'm not the expert on what you want to accept, but we need partnerships, because people, they're seeing it in their tax bill now, and they're saying, oh Christ, this is what I signed up for. And if you look at what you hear now, 12% now, will it be 12% next year too? It's a huge number, 3 years in a row that they're getting slammed. So we surely have to do a better job with the transparency with the public. There's been, nothing, besides some of the training and the hires that have gone out, but we just haven't been transparent, and I'll take my share of responsibility for that. But we really need to find partners that want to bring their checkbook along and understand that they want to solve a problem, and they're saving money by the time knowing they have a partnership.
I think the big question is how to motivate, how to get the dial, like, just having gone to all of those EMS meetings and seen the baggage everyone's coming to the table with from the previous effort that was fire, where nobody was willing to come to the table and have conversations. There's been progress, right? Because now they're willing to come to the table theoretically to talk about joint EMS service, except at the end of the day, listening to the conversations about what people were really willing to do, they didn't really have creative solutions, and it wasn't clear everybody was willing to go into some new cooperative arrangement. And we've been trying to reach out and not really having much response. So Mike, I am not saying you're wrong. I am agreeing. I am flummoxed, but how to get people
Well, you got, we
come to the
have,
table
you
with
open the
serious
door
attitude
on
about it.
notice. You have an open door on Sandersfield. I know people don't like it. But you gotta start there. You gotta sit down and start talking to them. You gotta bring them on there and you gotta have a clean slate. You may walk away after 3 months. It's like labor negotiation.
But I think that's
You know,
what we're looking at
with-
doing on the
with Otis.
26th, yeah.
Is a huge, I mean, we could possibly take $157,000 off the budget by working together with Otis.
Yeah,
So-
but you know, that's, when I hear that, okay, and I look at all the runs we've made to Otis, and we have about 80 ambulance runs that we do here, and we say that 150. How much are we gonna get paid to do 120 calls to Otis for fire response to pick up people, small injuries and stuff like that?
I guess it's a question of whether they're also
It's-
coming here
they're
for
coming
fire
here
calls.
for-
But is
Which
that an
would-
overkill? Do we need that much?
It
when
depends
we
on
only
how many
have-
people are in the house.
2 people responding to a call, yes, it's needed.
So I don't
And
think.
and here's the regional.
Can I come in a little bit?
Yep.
I like,
You can try it.
as I mentioned last week, I do think capacity and utilization are critical, but I think we're getting lost in the forest here. We analyzed a problem of a future fire station. That was, everybody agreed, we looked and said, we need to move to the professional because we're not pulling in enough volunteers. It was sort of the basic thing that we agreed to. We also agreed that to do it required 9 FTEs at a minimum. We're in the middle of the transition and we're arguing about how fast the transition and
Well,
whether
I think you
anybody
have
else.
to.
So I'm missing something
Well,
here.
and we
because-
also spoke about regionalization. When we talk to people,
Yeah,
okay, and I'm saying, there's been little to no meetings about regionalization with finding partners. And then, you know, people, if you're in a company and you start a huge project like this, if you take time out and say, how's it going? Okay, it's expensive. We're getting feedback from customers, our taxpayers, you know, this is expensive, this is high. It's okay to say, we're gonna take a time out, we're gonna reevaluate, and we're gonna push for regionalization.
so
Because
Frank, I
you-
don't, wait,
But
I
you got the 9 and you got the employees, but have you taken a look at the capital costs?
look, I think, here's what I'm saying. Regionalization is optimal. You cannot force the other towns to participate. You just cannot do it. But I think they're gonna see it eventually. They're probably already seeing it from their own taxpayers eventually. Nobody likes to raise taxes, but how do you reach what that we feel is the optimum for public safety in Monterey? And I feel like we already figured out what that would look like. And now we're implementing gradually instead of all at once. And we're arguing about how the gradualization should work while we're trying to grab other partners. I think we should take care of ourselves first and then be an example. And that can be changed as regionalization ideas come and are factored in. And all of a sudden we can start, but we can't force other towns to do that.
We can't, but Steve, it's unfair for us to go to all these other calls, to all these other towns.
Yeah, but you know, I'll tell you how
I mean, they're happy to have us, and, but is it fair?
Yeah, but you know, the whole concept of mutual aid is a really slippery slope to try to get rid of. It really is, because that's really our backup insurance. And if you start arguing and nitpicking at mutual aid and start keeping score, I feel it's not gonna have a good result. We wanna have the capacity on our own to take care of our own. And we can change that with regionalization, I totally acknowledge, but it's moving very slowly. I mean, Otis has made some improvements. They've converted a private enterprise into a town managed enterprise. That's a pretty big deal. And so there is movement. But I feel like our plan was 9 FTEs to solve our problem. And whether, you know, they're sitting there, if they go on a call to Otis or not, they're still not changing our basic budget. It's just an answer. We're not having 9 FTEs so that they can go to Otis. We're having 9 FTEs to ensure that everybody in Monterey has a fast
Service.
Quick service.
I don't think, I'm not really disagreeing with anybody here. I don't think, though, that the process of regionalization comes from just saying, do you want to sign up or not? I think you've got at least 3 or 4 other select boards and fire companies and people that have probably, I don't know, you probably know better, and you certainly know better than I, but you have people that have been serving there for decades, perhaps generations, if their towns are somewhat like our towns. You know, we have, what, 3 generations who've been in very big leadership positions, you and your father as well. I don't know about a grandparent maybe, I don't know, but certainly you and your dad, that's 2 generations. You know, substantial service, thank you. Thank you. And if that's true in the other towns, you've got a lot of, dare I say, perhaps ego investment, a lot of personalities. And in order to build a cooperative venture, I think it's important to have a certain level of finesse, which may be different in dealing with town number 1 versus town number 2, because their issues are different, their ways of looking at the world are different. And if you're going to build a collaborative relationship, you can't just talk our language, you have to talk their language. So I think there needs to be, and also if the public is supportive of it, then you have more internal motivation, let's say, for the governance to change, to do something, because they're hearing that from the community. So I think if we're going to address this on a larger scale, long-term, and not just keep having the same conversation in different forms year after year, then we have to be attentive to that and to have a process that enables that.
I'm sorry about this, but we have people, we have planning board, housing committee expected to discuss seasonal communities at 6:30, so I think we're gonna have to call that the end of our budget meeting. Can you email that, Chris, so that everyone can have it here?
Or I can make a copy.
And we're just gonna be meeting every Tuesday and hammering out any remaining questions about the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to adjourn? The finance committee needs to adjourn?
Yes.
I think you heard a motion, didn't you?
All in favor?
There's the door.
Excuse me, this is a public meeting, I can say.
Don't congregate out there either.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my God, you're so good.
Let's do it again next week.
Good seeing you.
We do have to do health insurance because, and I'm not gonna go way into it, but we have 8 plans that we know what they are. But of 5 other positions, we have 3 currently not taking it and 2 open positions.
Great.
And then we have 3 new positions, 4. So we probably want the possible combined position, which she says she's not gonna take, but it's a position. So
Right.
we're talking, we know we have a minimum, that I would say the absolute minimum we should budget for 3 unknowns and 2 open positions. Or we might even wanna add 1 of the 3 that are not taking, because
Hey, Lord,
that's.
3 days in a row.
But anyway, just,
So you're thinking we
Hey,
don't
Mort,
have
did you bring me dinner?
multiple buffers?
Lord,
well, it's not a.
Hey,
Well,
Lord,
the buffer, I
any
understand
cake?
the buffer, we're budgeting for people that.
Any cake?
No, who's gonna
It's
take
very
it.
more, if you don't have someone hired, versus you have someone hired and they're not taking, but you still need to take it all into consideration. If we had 100 employees, I could probably have a math efficient cost and.
So basically, budget for positions, even if that person might not. take it,
Oh, yeah, I think you have to.
For all positions.
Yeah, I think you have to.
And then the buffer is to deal with changes in a position, if a single becomes a.
Wait, I mean, it's on the budget, but it's cash.
Yeah, but that doesn't help you in a year where you have 11.
Alright.
Or in this case, 10.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Go to that
The
corner.
principal's office, yet again, detention.
Turn around, facing, just.
Okay, so, thank you, everyone, for planning board, housing committee. We're gonna revisit the seasonal communities designation and whether to put it on the town meeting warrant. We got an email from the planning board, a letter from the planning board in particular, about, they revisited it, talked with BRPC and feel comfortable in continuing to promote its presence on the warrant. Is there anyone in particular, Mort or Tom, or anyone else that wants to speak to that discussion, or we can get right into questions?
Yeah, I think we can get right into questions. I think that's where we want to make sure everybody's satisfied with where we stand. But yeah, the planning board is recommending that the select board put it on the warrant.
I can start, I have a list for you.
Yeah,
Go for it. Go for it.
your response back to me, Justin, was very thoughtful. I think they're all very good questions.
So I had prepared these and distributed them in advance, not to the whole boards, but chairs and such. But I think it's worthwhile for the public discussion to go through them. Brett's here and maybe you have answers. Has the state confirmed in writing the consequences if the town does not adopt zoning bylaws that comply with seasonal communities within 24 months? Is it the removal of the designation? Will the state sue the town or some other remedy? And is there a confirmation in writing? Because our town council's concern is there's a mass general law, MBTA communities, maybe not that's the exact title, but a town was supposed to accept zoning bylaws and the town meeting voted it down, and the attorney general is suing that town and 8 other towns. Do we have confirmation they won't do that in this case?
So Brett, if you want to take it, I could read your response, but you can speak to it directly.
Our town council does have a question out to the EOHLC without a response, just for your information.
Yeah, so, Roger, would you mind turning that back on?
Oh, sure.
If it's already possible, put the seasonal communities regulations up on the screen, that'll be a point of reference. So this is the first time I'm addressing the select board, so I just want to say beforehand, first of all, thanks, but, and also BRPC is not taking a stance on whether communities should or should not do seasonal communities, but we certainly want to be a resource to towns as they decide these things. Anyway, I'll just start with that. The challenge, and also say that your lawyer is also our lawyer, and we happen to, at least internally, kind of disagree with her reading of the regulations. And why we think that is, Eastern Mass has really been going through it with the MBTA communities law, and that has caused a lot of folks to be pretty hesitant right now around these changes. So the first thing I'll say to your first question, how do we have in writing? The best thing I can point to, and while that comes up, well, actually it is coming up. So,
Can you do anything with the screen?
It's in there, it's
Warming up?
yeah.
if you scroll down a little bit. Right here, the final regulations. And then scroll down to 7612, which is the very bottom. So here's where we read, in our mind, what would happen if you did not adopt zoning bylaws after 24 months. EOHLC may revoke a seasonal community designation under any of the following circumstances. First one here, the seasonal community fails to adopt zoning pursuant to this act, these regulations, within 24 months from the effective date or 24 months from the local acceptance, which would be in your case. And so that's the closest we get to in writing what will happen if if you don't pass your zoning bylaws pursuant to those regulations. And I just want to say too, one thing I want to kind of make a differentiation between all of these different acts. So we've had a lot these last few years, right? MBTA, which thankfully did not impact us, is an act that the state told communities, you are an MBTA community and you must comply with these things, right? So that's like the most extreme state preemption. The ADU bylaw, right, which also had some weird zoning issues in it, as we all know. What it did is it did not tell communities they had to do it. It took that power away from communities to regulate accessory dwelling units, right? I'm sorry. So So even if a town never changed their bylaws to be in compliance with the state's laws still preempted those. In this case, I've started calling this kind of an opt-in program. You can be a seasonal community, you opt into that, and by opting in, you agree to follow some of these things. If you end up not following those things within 24 months, UHLC just revokes your status. Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, no, I totally see your point. I'm just wondering about B, the number of year-round housing units
Yeah.
in the seasonal community. I'm assuming they mean new housing units, but it strikes me that just because you allow
Yeah.
new residential units, doesn't mean someone will build them.
Absolutely.
And that's, we're not in a position to force anybody to do it.
No, so that second one does not meaningfully permit. That would be in a case where someone comes to you with a permit, an application, right? And you say, no, you can't do this. It's a way for the state to say, well, you can't have housing over here and not over here, you know, and again, these are regulations that will be, I'll just leave it at that.
If I'm not mistaken, the regulation is subject to change.
This is the final regulation. Of course, the state legislature could come back and change how seasonal community reads, but you would then have to opt into that as well, so.
But the agency can't change this without a change in the law.
Exactly, yeah, these are the final regulations. I wish they would have had these like 6 months ago, but these are the final regulations. And just, well, I'll just go with more of your questions here.
Well, the next one is, can you just guarantee in the interim between when we adopt seasonal communities and when we change the zoning bylaws that our zoning bylaws are not at all changed? And I think you kind of answered that by saying it's an opt-in, but
Yeah,
can you point anywhere?
this is one that it's hard to point to and say, here it is, because like I said, you're opting into this, right? You're saying within 24 months, you either adopt our zoning or we're just not gonna be a seasonal community anymore. Again, that is not the case for MBTA or ADU. That's a whole different ballgame. I will say, like, your lawyer has a question out to UHLC. We have a question out to our lawyer for UHLC. We also have a question directly to UHLC about this because, quite frankly, you're not the only community that's asked us this. And they are working on an FAQ document right now, that again, I wish was out 6 months ago, that we've asked them specifically, you need to put this in writing, that you are not going to, A, sue anybody if they do this, and also, what happens if you don't accept this, in that case. So does that answer, I mean, for now, that's kind of our
Yeah.
working,
I mean, the other concern would be that if we're doing this primarily to be able to apply for grant money, we take the designation, we apply for grant money, and then the town doesn't support the actual zoning changes, and we've spent the grant money, are they gonna ask for it back?
Yeah, so, the only thing that we have to go on for that right now.
I mean,
Is the notice of funding availability that was issued for fiscal year 26. Nothing in that led us to believe, and only the Cape was eligible for those funds. Nothing in that led us to believe that that would be the case, right? Because theoretically, that those funds are for towns to attempt to change their zoning. And if a town meeting says, no, we don't want this, and the money's already spent, I can't, but obviously I don't know in the infinite wisdom of UHLC what they're gonna do.
I mean, if we spend it for a legitimate purpose like planning.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, and we wouldn't wait for 23 months to write the bylaws, right? Okay, so, so if the town rejects the bylaw rewrite, we go back to the drawing board and try again. And I think that would work. And also we have the carrot of saying, well, we might have to give some money back if we don't accept the bylaw changes.
But
That
shouldn't we-
might make it, what?
Shouldn't we accept zoning bylaws that we think are good for our town?
Yeah, well, we intend to write good zoning bylaws.
Not because there's a financial pressure?
The one thing that is likely to be well, the two things that are likely to be controversial One is the tiny houses. I'm not sure how that's gonna go over with the town. And the other one piece of this is the thing that we had a problem with in the planning board that I discussed with Susan, which is this idea that you could increase the designated tax exemption for some residents up to 50% instead of the current 35%, which is only a theoretical possibility that the town has never shown any interest in doing exemptions like that.
That's on the recording.
So, can we keep on the funding idea?
Yeah.
What's the deadline to accept the designation to be available for 2027 funding?
So the fiscal year 27 NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, is issued on July 1st of 2026. That's the goal that UHLC has set. This past application cycle, fiscal year 26, they gave folks a month to submit an application. So if we're assuming that's the same, that it will be as it was last year, we assume that August 1st, around August 1st, will be the application deadline for those funds. And that's what we know right now.
Do we have any clue on the amount or conditions that will be placed on them, or how we will receive the funds? Is it gonna be a reimbursement grant? Is there a town match?
Yep, so the capital investment plan that the state passed was $4 million over 2 fiscal years. $2 million has already been allocated for last fiscal year for those who already accepted the designation. $2 million will be available in fiscal year 27. What that means is that if you were to accept the designation, you would be awarded based on a formula with a minimum award and maximum award, and then the additional funding would be allocated based on your 2020 census year population. So what does all that mean? The minimum award last year was $50,000. The maximum was $175,000. Based on your 2020 census population of 1,095 people, the closest equivalent of another seasonal community that already accepted this was Chilmark, which is on Martha's Vineyard, has 1,212 people. They were eligible for $78,000 this year. I don't know if they've received that, but they were eligible for that. It would be a cost incurred reimbursement basis. So a good example that I have is if you were to, get BRPC to do some sort of zoning work, we would invoice you, you would pay us, the state would reimburse you with that type of situation. One last thing I want to mention here, the eligible activities, any planning and zoning activities, so anything related to your zoning bylaws, any local actions for housing development, those are things like incentives to developers, stuff like that. And then any public horizontal infrastructure leveraging housing development, which includes any pre-construction. So any, design, engineering, perk tests, like all those things would be eligible under that fund. There is no guarantee of funding past fiscal year 27, just because of how the state's budget works. So that's next year is kind of what we know. Past fiscal year 27, it's brave new world.
Thank you. One more question, please. What are the pros and cons of trying to put the zoning bylaw changes and the seasonal community designation on the same warrant or not? I mean, I think one immediate con that comes to mind is there's only one guaranteed funding cycle and we'd miss out on it if we delayed.
Yeah. So this is really my opinion, and BRPC hasn't taken like a stance on whether you should put both on a warrant, one on a whatnot. The best case scenario for you right now, right, is for you to put it on your warrant, town accepts it, you then can apply for up to, let's say $75,000, and you have 24 months to make your zoning bylaws come into compliance with this regulation. Best case scenario, right? Okay. Let's talk about a middle scenario. Let's say you push it off a year, and next year you accepted a town meeting. We don't know if there's any funding. That's kind of unclear to us at this point, but you have another 24 months to do the zoning. If there's no funding available for that, then you're on kind of the hook to figure out the zoning piece. Of course, there's local and regional funds like BRPC to help you out with that, but that's kind of an unclear middle option. Scenario 3 is probably the worst scenario in my mind, right? You're putting your seasonal communities and your zoning bylaws on the same warrants. let's say seasonal communities is warrant number 1, zoning's number 2. You pass your seasonal communities designation. People don't like the zoning bylaws, they fail Article 2. So now you have 24 months to go again to get your zoning bylaws. Well, let's flip that. Let's say people reject your seasonal community, but as we know, town meeting can be kind of chaotic, and they accept your zoning bylaw. And you know, some of them get taken off the table in time, right? Suddenly you've changed your zoning and you don't have any of the benefits of being a seasonal community. That's why I would say kind of take these bit at a bit. What can you can talk to people at seasonal communities today, and you can talk about zoning tomorrow, right? Like you can take them kind of one at a time, and the regulations do give you time. Again, if you want to put them on the same warrant, I feel confident that you will manage that as a town and do not do that because I'm telling you to. That's just my great fear as we work with these towns.
Outside of the funding, not having the funding, what would we not get from being a seasonal community? Say the apocalyptic thing happens, and seasonal community gets nixed, but the zoning laws, they go down through them one at a time, and they all agree with them. What is the disadvantage to doing that?
Well, I mean,
or what don't we get from not being a seasonal community?
So you wouldn't be able to set up kind of you wouldn't be able to designate housing that's created by your zoning bylaw as year round. So that could be, short-term rental or whatever. You couldn't deed restrict that to be year round. You couldn't create a year-round housing, affordable housing trust, right? You couldn't add that layer of complexity to it to kind of promote year-round housing. You wouldn't be, if the town was amenable to a residential tax exemption, you wouldn't be able to go above 35%, but again, I don't think that's of interest in Monterey, which is totally fine. That is just an option to this. And then any artist housing, which is kind of a thing in the Berkshires, right? So you wouldn't be able to designate artist housing. So basically, you would get the zoning and nothing else. And any potential funding in the future, you wouldn't be able to apply for. Now, again, if that were the case, you could go around the next year and try to accept the designation and hope the state funds some stuff. But that's kind of the situation.
Another big benefit is the ability to designate a portion of housing to critical employees like fire, police, other like that. That's given to you by accepting seasonal communities where you wouldn't have that otherwise.
Can I just say something? There's a slight misnomer here in terms of what, it's not just money that this is all about. It's about housing. And somehow we're looked at it just in terms of getting some money. The money we get helps us develop housing and helps with developing not only maybe new housing, but also some old housing renovations. And there's a huge, this is really huge. I'm really amazed at the pushback because to me, it's just so clear that it's something that really helps Monterey versus hinders it.
So I to make that real, I would be a supporter should we accept seasonal communities and in 2027 receive a minimum of $50,000. I would advocate that a part of that money go toward doing a feasibility study on the piece of land behind the building there to understand if that was even in the discussion for housing. We don't even know that at this point. So that's a direct step forward. That, like Ken said, it's not money in general. It's money toward housing, and we've got a whole list between the planning board and the housing committee of direct things that we could use that money for advanced housing.
I'm sure the list is longer than the available cash.
I guess,
it is.
Ken, where I'm hung up, and I like the money. And there's not a lot else to like.
Yes, but you don't like the states.
No, and there's strings attached, there's totally strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1 year of guaranteed money, kind of. We don't know how much. We do have CDBG money, which I'd like to take additional money too to help with the cause of studying zoning bylaws, consultation on this property. And I think at the end of the day, maybe I'll be a supporter in that sense, because we need money to get these different projects up and running. But there's totally strings attached without, it's not free money. And for the strings that are attached, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of guaranteed money. When we went to go do the park grant, which is another state grant out in this park, Bidwell Park, it was a few $1,000s, and then they said you can never change the library property ever. You can never, in any way. So sometimes we just have to say, the strings are more than the guaranteed money, and when we don't know the guaranteed money, and there are guaranteed strings, I'm just trying to weigh it all out. At the same time, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 at this point in time with the housing committee just getting up and running, I think could be very valuable. And also, you know that we have the CDBG monies, which we've already started to use toward this cause, and there's no strings on that money. So
Are there, oh, sorry, Justin. Are there specific strings that you're worried about?
well, we've had zoning bylaws that have more or less been very similar for 50 years. And now they're coming in and saying, you gotta change them. We will go from a 2-acre, 200 foot of road frontage minimum to half an acre. You can build a tiny home on half an acre, which, look, maybe I even support that. And for all the negativity about Hume's trailer park, I'm not necessarily anti a trailer park. But you have these town zoning bylaws for 50 years, and then we say, here's maybe $30, $40, $50,000, we don't know. We'll change them for that small, very, in the grand scheme of things, small amount of money. So
It has been brought up that the state might mandate that statewide anyways, to get rid of 2-acre zoning.
I mean, the state is really moving in that direction. They're gonna, at some point, fairly soon, say that towns have to have half-acre zoning.
And I'd love to do it on our own terms.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty with all this is the state coming in and telling us what to do and not even, you know, if it was eminent domain, they'd find fair market value. But they're not even promising fair market, not that you could come up with one. It's like the question mark of some money next year. I don't know how many towns were seasonal communities last year versus are expected to be this year.
I think there were 12 or 14 that accepted on the Cape and Islands last year. And if you don't mind me responding to the zoning question, I think this is an important part here, especially in the Berkshires. I think we should be frank that this law and these regulations were written for the Cape, right? And we are now kind of looking at this, trying to fit our communities into it. And you know, an undersized lot in Monterey, I don't know if you know how many undersized lots are in Monterey.
82.
Currently 82. You know, you still, under these regulations, you still have to meet all the Title V and public water and safety.
Less than 20.
Okay, perfect. So, you know, in my mind, you're not gonna see housing being built on every single undersized lot because you're not able to fit a well and a septic on it, right? And that's what we're seeing everywhere, is Stockbridge has more sewer, Great Barrington has more sewer, but once you get into the hill towns, you don't have that same dynamic. And I just don't foresee a ton of, you know, tiny homes being built on these tiny lots just because our utilities don't allow that, or you know, and that's kind of a good thing for you because it actually prevents some of your open space from being developed in that way, but it does allow you to access some of these other programs. But I get it. The zoning piece is a really, it's a worrisome piece.
And I'd like to say,
Yeah, Marty.
Justin, there is no permanent commitment.
Yes.
We can accept it, and then we can within months, when we're working on the zoning laws, and go, this, you know what, this doesn't work for Monterey, we opt out. No penalty, no harm, no foul. So there's no permanent commitment to this. It's in the regulations.
So I've worked with state grants, and there is, because it's our time and headache. And I'm not saying don't do it because of that, but when we accept the park grant and we spend hours working on it, and Mickey reads the fine print and realizes we can't change the library square footage by 1 square foot in perpetuity over $3,000, but we have time and energy put into it, it's zoning bylaws that are changed permanently. And I think, you know, it's very concerning to me. And at the same time, maybe the $50,000 question mark is worth kind of these concessions. I also just wanna point out that we wanna use the CDBG money, we don't like it just sitting in an account doing nothing. So please also come forward, whether we do this or not, whether we get funding through seasonal communities or not, let's find ways to use the CDBG monies in positive ways toward housing. We had used it for a couple of other things when we had no housing things imminent, but now that we have a housing committee, I wanna make sure that, we all wanna make sure that it's supported.
Wonderful. Is that like 75,000? Is that something?
And potentially growing. What happens is whenever someone sells a house where they did a CDBG loan, when Monterey was the host community, whether or not it's in Monterey, we get a check. Monterey was the host community a few, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago or more, and the checks get smaller because they depreciate for like 15 years. But we've gotten, over the last 4 years, we've gotten maybe 4 or 5 checks. When we get them, they're just 30,000, we just got one. So it's not a set pot, and it's money that the town never put forward and that we totally wanna use for housing. So I wanna make sure that we all wanna make sure that these initiatives keep moving in a positive direction.
Great, great.
Could I just say just on the back to the zoning, just briefly, the zoning will be approved by town meeting. So on that level, what we need, I mean, and that goes back to what Rev said earlier in terms of timing. We don't wanna rush the zoning, because that's something that really has to be developed and people have to understand it, if it's gonna pass. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass.
The more that we talk about it, the more I see what makes sense to keep the meeting separate. Cause what I envision is we get seasonal communities money and then we spend it developing zoning bylaws, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it is we don't like putting things before the voters that have strings later on down the road, right? That's the other piece of it.
I don't see this zoning having any strings down the road.
Yeah, and I guess I would say as the planning board, we're already looking at the bylaws, whether we adopt seasonal communities or not. We're looking at the bylaws with an eye toward how can we potentially change the bylaws that would help the housing situation in Monterey, and whether we would come up with tiny homes on our own and do that, maybe not, but there's other things that we would consider. So the work on the bylaws is gonna happen whether we become a seasonal community or not. That's our job as a planning board.
Nikki.
So I read the seasonal community paperwork, given a copy, and I read it, and I made comments, and you all know that. But how close to what it says in that document do our bylaws have to abide by? Because it did say something in there, and I don't have them with me, so I can't find it, but somebody has a copy there, that you could make new smaller lots. And do you have to have tiny houses? Because tiny houses are not, a 400 square foot house is not acceptable for any but a single person or a couple. And they better like each other a lot, because there's not a lot of room. I mean, I walked around my house and I measured everything, and I saw how it could fit out, and it can't. And as soon as you have a kid, forget it. And we wanna get families here, so we don't wanna have 400 square foot houses, because then our families will leave and all the kids that we need in this town will be gone. So I don't know, how far do you need to abide by what is said in that document?
But maybe, because I think Nikki's referring to B here, which has the attainable housing unit sizes and lots.
Yeah, so, these are,
Undersized lots established.
let me just.
I think the fear is that someone's gonna have a 3 acre lot and cut it up into a bunch of 1/2 acre lots and make some homes on it.
Yeah, so,
That's what the concept is.
so first I just want to say, this is your minimum, this is the minimum you have to do. You could go beyond this, right? And the state would be giddy, but this is kind of the minimum what you have to go for. And so, walking through section B, a seasonal community shall amend its zoning to allow attainable housing units on undersized lots as of right in single-family residential zoning districts. This does not give you the ability, or this does not make you make new undersized lots, right? You're not being forced to create undersized lots. You already have a subdivision process for
But
that.
somebody can make them, it's what it says there.
That's not how we read it. How we read this is shall amend its zoning law to allow, I guess, where exactly are you looking at?
As that one, number 1,
As of right is zoning
and then
for
number
single
1, I
housing
see it.
units.
As a right of zoning, attainable houses on undersized lots established pursuant to this section.
So, sorry, that's a great point. So this, thinking on my feet here. So, any lots that are, any housing that's built on an already existing undersized lot are pursuant to this section. So this is saying, like right now, an undersized lot probably doesn't have a house on it, because you probably wouldn't be allowed to have a house on it, right?
They're all grandfathered, so they do.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
around the lake,
yeah, of course.
in certain neighborhoods, almost all the lots are undersized.
Yeah.
So any new housing established pursuant to this section is what would be considered, I'm trying to find the right word. You're not creating new lots through this. You're creating new housing on undersized lots. Does
So
that make
if
sense?
you had a
Undersized
10-acre
lots
lot,
established pursuant to this section, what does that mean?
For attainable housing units on undersized lots. So the main portion of this is the attainable housing units on undersized lots established. So if you just took this out, any attainable housing established pursuant to this section, because we're dealing with undersized
So
lots.
we can take that part out, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying this is describing any attainable housing units on undersized lots, not the creation of new undersized lots.
Established.
Yes, affordable housing units on undersized lots established.
Units
Establishing the
So,
lot.
no, units established on the lots.
It's the house on the lot, Rich.
Yeah. This is like an entire section of, like an entire proper noun right there. Attainable housing units on undersized lots.
We should diagram this.
I know. Yeah, so this is the minimum you have to do. And again, you're not creating new lots. Here's the reality. There are a ton of undersized lots on the Cape that have water service and sewer service. People don't want to develop on those because of all the things that we talk about when we talk about housing, right? The state is trying to get those undersized lots that are on public water and public sewer to have housing on them. And the fact is that, like, we don't have a lot of those in the Berkshires that could actually be developed with attainable housing. So you already have undersized lots, whether they're grandfathered in or not, right? This is not creating new undersized lots. Does that make sense? I know I'm kind of like, these are.
And there's also a process. If someone had a 5-acre lot and they wanted to carve it up,
Yes.
they have to go to the planning board and fill out a Form A, and we have to review it. And our job is to make sure that it's a conforming lot if they want to build a house on it. Because otherwise, I mean, people split up their land just to give their neighbor a little bit of property, but it's not a by right. They can't build on it, and that's kind of our role to police that.
Yeah, Jen?
I just wanted to speak to your point, Mickey, about tiny houses. Sure, it might not be for a married couple who want to have 2 kids or something like that, but my kids are growing up and looking for housing and stuff like that, and if they could have a starter home in a tiny home in Monterey, that would be amazing. So if say my youngest wanted a starter home here in 3 years, and he lived in a tiny home for a while until he could afford a house here, then that's, keeping families here. And the kids could be 20, they don't have to be 7, just to have people in the community that are, vibrant and keeping the community going, so. And then allowing older people to live in a mother-in-law suite or something like that, while a family lives in like the main house or something like that. I think there are a lot of options of what you can do with a tiny house.
And I think it may be, I'm personally not too worried about it, because it's sort of like with the ADUs. The cost of the sewer and the septic are so high that the idea of building a 400 square foot house, that house is like, you built a septic and a sewer, a septic and a water supply and a well for a 400 square foot house, it costs more than the house.
Yeah.
Like, the economics are not likely to be there for us, right?
It just doesn't make sense to me, that's why I don't wanna encourage it, because it's.
But I think the bottom line is, it was meant for other communities that had sewer and water lines, where those weren't.
So
wouldn't
is
be
this
the
that's
concern.
why is this something that we,
Well, we can still get the money and try to do something useful with it, and personally, if we put attainable housing, or Governor Healy unveils starter home zoning district to help first-time home buyers, I mean, I don't know, maybe there'll be multiple tools, and if we get the money to help us plan, or to figure out if we can build on that property and what we could put there, maybe we'll have options for what kind of buildings those would be and what we'd be able to do with them.
I like the incentives with year-round residency, I think that's important, you know. Regardless, I think that's a good thing to add to us.
And how would that come about?
So there was one example that I gave earlier, is that like in Stockbridge, they were talking about giving a $25,000 down payment assistance. And then that part of the strings attached with that grant could be that in perpetuity that has a year-round house.
Are you
So
asking
it's
how
an
is that
easy
secured?
restriction. No, that makes sense, Jen, thank you. So is there any provision, it's for the year-round housing, that's something we would need to make up on our own?
Well,
So,
people could also do it.
no, sorry, if you wanna go to 7609, this document's gonna haunt me for years in the future. Oops, sorry. Page 13, yeah. So, is this the one I want?
Seasonal.
For year-round housing restriction. Yeah, so, there's specific language here somewhere that I wish I had my PowerPoint for.
3 is about a 30-year limitation.
Yeah, so basically, so if the situation that Jen mentioned goes forward, right? You would put some sort of, this is not exactly the one I'm looking for, but I wanna make sure I have the right. Essentially, you're gonna put a deed restriction on the home, and that's allowed through this as a year-round housing deed restriction.
And we can't do that otherwise.
Oh yeah, perfect, so, yeah, it's in the definition of attainable housing. That is a good question. You can do deed restrictions otherwise for like income limitations, or elderly housing is a deed restricted category. I don't believe under the current state law, you can restrict via year-round, that's a very specific thing. But it gives you all sorts of restrictions here, so deed restrictions, easements, covenants, conditions in any deed, mortgage, will, agreement, lease, legally binding document. So there's lots of ways to secure housing for 30 years to be year-round housing.
You could actually make it lower than the 250 AMI.
It could be any kind of subsidy or something like that, like this up here, like if, let's say we built houses on it, we sold it, like Habitat for Humanity or something, it could have the deed restriction that it's year-round on there.
And even
or-
year-round and with a 120% AMI and not 250% AMI.
Yeah, or like, do we do like, help with roofs and stuff like that, that this would also allow us to do something like that. Any kind of subsidy going to a home, we could put that on there.
So I was gonna mention too with the undersized lots piece, so, 2 things BRPC is working on for all these communities is one is a model bylaw. So essentially what the state did for ADUs, we're also working to do for seasonal communities. So you don't have to, so if you, let's say you get $75,000 from the state next year for a seasonal community, you're not gonna spend it all on us trying to fix your bylaws. We have kind of a shorter process. We're already working on that, right? But what else we wanna do is we wanna do some GIS analysis on your towns to make sure, these are the lots that would be impacted. What lots in this impacted group actually could contain a well and a septic, and then give that information to you as like, hey, just so you know, as you change your bylaws, these are the lots of interest that are going to be impacted. That way you can start to play some offense on that. And if you know the property owner, if you don't know, all those pieces come to play. So that's some stuff that we're working on to make sure that if you do accept this, and even if you don't, quite frankly, we're gonna do this analysis because it's interesting, and give you information so that you can make informed decisions based on the lots that will be impacted.
Last question for me. What's the difference between the housing trust that we're creating?
Yes, that's good question. And I'm trying, I had a really good answer the other night. What was that?
The answer that we included was that the trust they're suggesting we need to create as part of season could be merged with the housing trust we've already created. And so it's one trust with merged funding.
You would, yeah. So
And the
it's,
state's cool with that.
so if you look at, this is actually the section, the way they've set it up is it essentially mirrors the already existing Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Act. So like the people you need on the board are essentially the same people you need on an affordable housing trust. So the one, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Good. Any other questions? Yeah, Mickey.
Back to that part about, it has to be year-round house where you're living it 10 months out of a year, not, and for the whole 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about maybe, elderly people can get it, a lot of people like to go to, I worked in a seasonal community, Otis Woodlands. And it came to a point where I said, people sold sold New York and lived in Otis in Florida.
Yeah.
So they were never year-round in one place.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a restriction that seems very tight and hard to conform to.
The 10-month?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think it was designed that way in some ways to make sure that, the 2 months off is kind of the idea that, I'm on vacation, X amount of days a year, right? So we're all, and that's covered by those 2 months. But quite frankly, like.
But not if you wanna get out of here for the whole winter.
But I think that's the point. I think that's kind of what they're getting at.
If you have a second home, maybe you don't need help with your home.
Just about.
And,
That's not necessarily so.
and
Well, no, people put themselves in situations where,
I know somebody I'm
But
thinking of
it's
right now, who
priorities.
never had any money, and he had a house in Florida and a house up here, so.
well, it's
At some point,
priorities
you
at that
sell
point.
one and you live in the other.
And that doesn't mean the
that's what
house,
it's involved.
sorry.
Sorry. go
And
ahead.
that doesn't mean the house you live in now will ever be, like, if you have a house here, a house in Florida, great, your house will never be year-round restricted. It means any new
No,
housing
but
that's
even
developed.
if you're building a new house, to say that you can never go to Florida for 3 months,
Yeah,
that just doesn't make.
Then
reasonable sense
then
to
you
me.
don't choose that house.
Then you gotta build.
Or if you're in a situation where you wanna do that, you sell that house and you buy one that doesn't have a restriction. I mean, if we're trying to build housing for young people who are working, I don't think they're necessarily gonna be in that house for 7 years, right? They may choose, most people don't stay in the same house for that long anymore. Maybe that's a bad thing and we should be hoping for it, but I'd like to see us get a few houses for people who are living and working in the area. And I'm willing to put off the question of whether they can also have a second home somewhere else.
Can I call on Laura and then you more? I could just see Laura Mancy, do you have a comment?
your hand is up, Laura.
Maybe her microphone's off.
Okay,
Can
I'm
you hear
sorry.
me?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, this is a pretty in-depth conversation about seasonal communities. How do you think our community knows any of this particular information. I mean, I think we need to do a little more education for our community to understand what's going on here. That's my opinion, because we are really into a lot of different aspects, which I don't think a lot of the people in our community would understand that until you explain it.
100%.
So.
And I think we can do that in the next month or two.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, and many warrants, the planning board is shepherded initiatives. We have town meetings to explain them. Just like we had a town meeting to explain.
Public forum.
Yeah, not a town meeting, I'm sorry, public forum, to explain them, Laura, and we do have time to do that. But in terms of what Mickey was saying about going to Florida for a few months, we're talking about building attainable housing for the workforce and younger individuals. I don't think that's a population that's gonna go playing golf for 3 months in the winter.
But the house would always be locked into that designation in perpetuity.
Just for 30 years.
30 years.
30, all right, 30 years perpetuity, that's a long time too.
So we won't put anybody there older than 25.
Me personally, I wish it was perpetuity. Because then it would have to go to the same situation a second time, or a third time, or a fifth time. I'm okay with that. If you don't like it, sell it to one of the people that's gonna be here 10 months a year working a job and go find a different house. Like, it's not gonna be all the houses. We'll be lucky if it's 5, Nikki.
You know,
And
don't you like that I bring up the questions?
I do.
You have to
But
think about
that
things a little
one,
bit.
any other questions or comments?
I'm good.
We're all good?
Laura, is your hand still up?
Well, my hand is still up because I do think that at a town meeting to describe all of the information that we have discussed tonight is not the appropriate place. Because the town meeting has an agenda, and as we have all been at those town meetings, time is of the essence to get this going. And I don't think this discussion that we've been having about seasonal communities would be appropriate, because it would take up too much time. And I don't think everybody would totally understand where everybody's coming from, my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think Mort misspoke, and he meant to say that we should have a public forum prior to the town meeting, maybe several weeks or a month before town meeting, to answer questions and talk about it.
And to put an article in the Monterey News.
Yeah.
To explain this.
Yeah. We all agree with you, Laura.
Yeah, I don't think an article in the Monterey News is fully, I mean, it can describe things, but I don't think it's a full development of what the issues that we have tonight would portray in that letter. I think people need to voice their opinion on all of this, because it goes either way. I mean, you know, I can go for it, I could go against it if I listen to all of the comments we have here tonight.
I think it's both, and I think judging by all the nods around the room, people are thinking both, not either or, right? A public meeting and some information that's out there in writing for people to peruse.
Well, I guess the action is is what you guys decide. But I do think that there are a lot of people that don't understand this, and it's not an easy. I mean, it's an easy thing to understand when you have all the facts. But I just want to make sure our town knows what the facts are, because when the warrant is put out, as you all well know, most people think it's a done deal. So I want to make sure everybody totally understands what the facts are for anything that we do. Thank you.
And that we approve, that we support it. Because I think a lot of people do see if it's on the warrant, and sometimes at this table here, we say, we'll put on the warrant and let the town meeting decide. But I think more often than not, people see it on the warrant and they think, oh, the select board thinks we should do this. For some reason, they think that we know what we're doing. And then they want to support it, or they support it, and And, yeah, we have, point well taken, and Tom Sawyer?
Yeah, I think the first step is for you guys to vote and decide to either put on the warrant or not.
I think at this point, we should put it on the warrant, that's like,
You
I'll
wanna make a
move that
motion?
we put it on the warrant, and I think it would be really great to have both something out there in writing for the Monterey News and anywhere else we can get it, and a public forum to put it forth to people, explain the critical details at least, and give people a chance to ask the question, so it's not on the floor of the town meeting. But I'll make the motion that we
I'll
put it
second
on
the
the warrant.
motion.
Any other discussion? We'll call a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna, for the purposes of the town meeting warrant, I'm gonna ruminate on this, but it's gonna be on the town meeting warrant, and I might be a no vote, because I don't think that I support it for all the strings attached, and I think we have another funding source for this very important work. And if you take the money out of it, I would be a no vote all day long. So if the money's the only thing, I just don't know that I'm willing to put a yes vote on the warrant. But we're still learning things. We have emails out to the state. We have questions that have yet to be answered. So if, in a couple of weeks, I may say it's 3-0. But I think also 2-1 signifies to people, when they're reading the town meeting warrant, this is something that I should really research. Because 3-0 looks like
It's a slam dunk.
it's a rubber stamp, and 2-1 could look like, let me do some more research, to Laura's point, so.
Strangely, I really think that's a good point. Well, I mean, look, when you have reservations about something, you really think about it. You're not just offhand and off the cuff, you think through stuff. So I think it's useful for people to see that, and it might flag them to pay more attention than they might otherwise have.
Thank you, everybody. Any last words before we move on?
Just to comment, since your interest in this is around the additional funding, I just want to say that the planning board, when it did its strategic plan 2 years ago, I mean, the number one issue was housing. As of all the initiatives that the town wanted us to pursue. And if the funding falls through, if the state puts constraints that are unacceptable, we can always opt out. We can opt in and opt out over and over.
You can opt in and opt out, but that's not good practice, and it's not that simple. It has to have an out-of-town meeting. And I think if you go tool by tool, and I want tools for housing, right? If you go tool by tool, and if people ask me about this on the street, none of these tools are for Monterey. None of these tools were designed for Monterey. None of them really work for Monterey. Everyone's kind of says, yeah, we probably won't get many tiny houses. We probably won't get this. It raises the 35% residential property tax exemption to 50%. We have 0%. Tool by tool, these are not the tools that we need. What I am interested in is, with BRPC's help, with consultants' help, finding the tools that promote affordable housing in Monterey. I just look at this toolkit and go tool by tool and go, yeah, this isn't it. It's a scatter shot. It's largely aimed at the Cape. It's not our toolkit that we need. It's like showing up to do plumbing with an electrician's work tools.
But that's the way it's always been, Justin.
But it's also like not knowing what your project is gonna be and never buying any tools, so that when the project comes up, you don't have the right tools to fix it.
You don't have the money to buy them.
We have money for you, please. If you get nothing else for tonight, we have money for you, whether or not this passes.
And there's a lot more than money in this, but yeah, for.
Okay, and I appreciate everyone's time.
We appreciate you considering that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
And I will write a 10-page paper about why I need to shut my mouth after a meeting ends.
Right, 100 times.
I will not know. I was gonna say it, yeah.
So sarcastic, I never know. He told me to get a news.
Okay.
The BLS.
BLS.
So I did bring something for you, Frank, that so part of the problem that we ran into with BLS endorsement is the language.
Mickey.
The language that the CFR has. So a class 1 ambulance is a vehicle designed for emergency care, used for transport and treatment of patients, suitable for basic life support or advanced life support. A class 2 ambulance is a vehicle that meets similar safety standards to class 1, but is primarily for transporting patients to or from hospitals and not for initial emergency scene response, except as background. For strange reasons, known only to the state, there is no class 3, but there is class 4, is an air ambulance, and class 5 is a specially permitted vehicle for specific, often non-emergency or niche services, such as, 170.471, which is CFR. A class 5 ambulance is a vehicle that does not meet the minimum vehicle design and construction standards of any other class of ambulance. It may be dispatched to the scene of an emergency to bring trained personnel and appropriate equipment and supplies. It shall meet the following minimum requirements, and it goes on. Basically, it's a non-transport vehicle. So what that endorsement is for is class 5.
Okay, that's fine.
And I think it just wasn't as clear.
It wasn't as clear, that's
Yeah.
fine. I
right.
understand they needed to get the EMT certification. So we can do it.
I find it really weird that there's no class 3. I wonder what it was, or if there ever was one, or if they just left it in case. But when they left, like, why not do 1, 2, 3, 4 and then leave 5? It's just weird.
Sometimes you forget numbers, right?
Did you get you have the copies of the contract?
I don't have,
Class 3 was
I didn't know if you wanted to do it all right.
Class 3 was the
Well,
horse
let's-
one.
I guess it's good to.
Summary.
So why don't we just distribute it and I'll go over quickly
Where was that? I wasn't.
the town administrator contract.
You want me to just?
You just have one copy?
I just have one.
Okay, I'll
Donated,
forward it.
donated.
So,
Oh, you're.
so we're not gonna sign it tonight, cause you all haven't had a chance to look at it, it's nothing that different than you all have seen, but
Dates changed.
well, it's more than that, because, and this is probably why it's good for you all to take some time with it. So I thought it was gonna be dates change, et cetera, but there were a couple of wordings about an introductory probationary period, so
Okay.
remove that, and then there were some clauses, had to get moved around a little bit. Did you have any questions?
I did, it all made sense.
Okay, and Donna was good with it.
Did you just forward it?
I probably didn't. And we'll do it, I think we should just sign it next week, but I think it'd be good for you all to look at it. And then, in terms of a June contract, Donna did recommend some kind of a no cause separation with 3, are we good to move on?
I'm good.
The pavilion, I didn't go ahead and sign, I'm jumping around, sorry. Town meeting warrant. We have seasonal communities designation. Do we have anything else for the town meeting warrant?
Do you wanna do the Lombardo?
Yes, so that's under the I'm treating as under the budget.
Okay.
Okay, so
as a
things
special
other
order.
than.
The only other thing I wasn't, I'm still uncertain of is that, tax title revolving fund.
Yes, yeah.
It's the only one I'm still, I think we can do it, it doesn't save us any money in the budget really, because we still have to have some funds available.
If we wanna set it up, we'll set it up, and that is a bylaw change.
Yeah.
I don't know how difficult that's gonna be, given that our bylaws or our whole set of bylaws is currently out to review with the Attorney General, I think, or Amanda's about to send it off for review by the Attorney General. But,
And the only thing too with that is we don't have to vote for it once, you don't have to vote for it every single year.
yes, but
It's different.
it's a bylaw.
Which one?
The, tax title legal service
Okay.
revolving fund, it's not like.
It is
the regular-
weird that you vote for it every year. That's strange.
Okay. Anything, I mean, other than that, it's gonna be budget, some money, special articles, and then seasonal communities designation, and potentially a tax title revolving fund, which will be small dollar.
I mean, I'm throwing this out there, though I have very mixed feelings about doing it. One possibility would be to, if we believe that there's a substantial number of people in the community that are very concerned about the fire department budget, we could put whatever the new proposal is in a separate warrant article, and we could actually, I would say that if we do that, we need to itemize it so that we can incorporate it into the budget later in a more seamless fashion. So like, whatever the line items are for the individual staff and the additional cost of healthcare and anything else we need to add to that, itemize with numbers so that it's easy to roll in and we don't make any errors. It's clear to everybody. I'm not suggesting it, I'm just putting it on the table.
Oh, that's a good suggestion.
As to form, I do like the separation, like you said, because one of the difficulties with last year's was when Roger wanted to go make this year's budget, it wasn't that easy to incorporate. So if you say
Exactly, I want that
X
again.
for this, X for that, but it's definitely
And there's greater clarity of exactly what, like, for everybody, for the voters, but also for us.
Can you, go to the special articles, because even though these are money articles and really, in a way, is part of the budget, let's just
Where are we at?
talk through them a little bit, if you. Yeah, I don't-
Research and stabilization, is that where
These
it
ones,
is?
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So that, just so you all know, for the additional principal payments, that ends the highway truck, right? Or is there,
I think there was still a little bit more left, not a lot. I think we talked about, I'd have to go back and look at the paperwork, but I think.
one of these
There was-
two ends, the tandem axle?
The Tanner Maxwell, I think it's.
Okay.
Yeah, was that the full amount, the 766? Did we match? I can't remember, I don't have
That
that.
looks like it.
I don't have it, because it's between the, I don't have that in front of me.
do you use Outlook to search when you're in your email?
Yeah.
So it used to allow me to ask specific things, and now all it will let me search on is the sender. It won't let me search on
All
anything else.
folders, so you.
All folders, you know?
folders.
That just tells it what folder, but it will
Do all
only
folders.
let me search on a name, on a sender. It won't let me. $20 line does it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
because the minimum is 20.
right.
Then the library is a simple, that gets us to 100,000 principal,
Right.
because Mickey's watching us.
How many more years to Mickey?
only like 3 left, isn't it?
No, 4?
3, I forget what.
This
what-
brings us to 375, I believe.
How weird is it that
We could
it
ask,
still
add
feels to
another
me like it's in.
25,000, but it's not actually done, it's great.
No, it's our last mark is replacing a lot of the original stuff.
So yeah, so next year, 2 years, we'll be down, we'll be down 2 vehicles, the tandem axle and the highway truck, I think. will
Right.
Mhm.
But when do we
Sure,
have
there'll be a
the
new
fire
one.
truck coming on?
2028, I think it is, isn't it?
Well, that's next year.
In 28. I think it's actually in calendar year 28, I think. it was.
20, okay.
I think so.
And then the medical rescue vehicle, Roger and I came up with a plan that 11,720 just gets us to 100,000 left. So there's no real grand plan with that, other than it gets us to 100,000 left.
Okay. What does it leave, cause that was new.
But we thought we'd make a additional payment on it. We've been aggressive in all of our payments other than that one. We have
Right.
delayed. We paid almost no principal yet.
Yeah.
Which is not our standard operating
Oh,
procedure,
yeah, so
so.
now we're down to only
I just cleaned up
25
some other
free cash.
things, so it's,
This is totally stupid, but can you fix the word pavilion, please?
Where's that at?
Line 15.
Hey, it's gone. Where is it?
Pavilion. It is line 15, it says Pavilion. I'm not sure what a pavilion is, but I'm sure
I
it's
need another eye
fine.
in there, don't I? Yeah, another-
Yes, pavilion. I'm not sure if it's 1 L or 2, but at least it's.
I think it's 1 L.
Our OPEB trust contribution, 30,000, we pay the actual benefit out of the operating budget as of last year. And the accountant's recommendation is at some point to put the OPEB trust contribution also in the operating budget, but it's a special article as proposed.
Okay.
3,000 for cultural council, Southern Berkshire ambulance, 157,955.
So far, I don't have any FY25 bills
Wow.
so far. I've been lucky.
I understand, we got the police truck.
Oh, yeah, we got the police cruiser.
Yeah, someone called me today and told them
Police-
Sheffield
The police cruiser truck.
truck.
What is this CIP?
That was that was on the capital improvement plan.
Capital, thank you.
And, yeah, those things, so the next one is, we put in as a placeholder 10,000 to stabilization, but depending on how these other articles pan out, we could increase that. The Garfield algae monitor is 13,891. I think it's worth a revisit of whether that money is better there or in stabilization or as free cash. The Council on Aging Transportation,
So
8,000.
Can you put a hold on the algae monitor? So we don't
Yeah,
do
that's a
that.
good idea, the yellow. And actually just put a yellow on the stabilization as well, because
Yep.
I think what we're gonna have to weigh at the end of the day is this a good purchase? If free, we can't get too caught up with the freeness of free cash, because it's not.
It's not, and it's not really wise to run it down to that 25 seems low to me.
So $1 for the pavilion, I think after tonight's discussion, we can lower that to $0.
Why
And
did we
then
even have one? It was just to put it.
I
on
put it as a
there.
placeholder
Okay,
because
okay.
we thought we might.
Okay.
And then renewable energy working group, I was in touch with Peter and maybe we should invite him in. He wants money to pay Beacon should they continue to work for him, but the project's in a weird
Pretty with
transition.
tire and.
Yeah.
The tire condition.
But if we defund it,
It
we
definitely
basically
happened.
end it.
I'll go through and find out how much is left in that ARPA account. I noticed that there wasn't, from last fiscal year, so I'm kind of, but I totally.
That committee is 9, 8. Wall